Hello and welcome to Calm Sleepy Tales, where gentle stories invite you to relax, unwind, and drift into peaceful dreams. In tonight's cozy tale, we journey with Eloise, a kind-hearted young woman, as she follows a quiet dream to open her very own cafe. Settle in with a warm drink, breathe deeply, and let the story carry you into calm and comfort. It was early spring when Eloise first walked past the quiet, empty shop front at the corner of Maple and Rosewood Lane. The windows were dusty, the sign above half faded, and ivy curled around the wooden beams like old lace. It was nothing grand, but in that quiet space, something stirred inside her. A whisper of a dream. Eloise, who was just 23, recently moved back to the little village where she'd grown up. Her grandmother had passed the year before, and in her will she left Eloise a modest sum. Not much, but enough for something meaningful. Her grandmother, who made the best lemon shortbread in the world, had always told her, "Home isn't a place. It's how you make people feel inside it." And so, with her heart full of that memory, Eloise stood in front of the old shop and imagined the warm glow of lamps inside, the smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon, mismatched chairs, books on the shelves, and a place where people could sit as long as they liked. The next few weeks were a burr of quiet determination. She negotiated gently with the elderly landlord, who remembered her as a girl chasing butterflies in the church garden. He agreed to a very fair rent, smiling at her dream. The inside of the shop was bare-boned and dusty. The walls needed painting, the floors a good scrub. But the light that poured through the windows in the morning felt like a promise. With the help of some childhood friends, Eloise soon had the shop clean, windows sparkling in the sunshine, and walls refreshed with a new coat of paint. She called it the Little Leaf Café, after the pressed leaf her grandmother had once tucked into a recipe book. A small maple leaf, now golden with age. Eloise didn't want sterile steel tables or uniformity. Instead, she drove out to flea markets and rummage sales, collecting a chair here, a lamp there. She found a bright yellow teapot with a chipped spout, a velvet armchair in moss green, old frame botanical prints, and a mismatched trio of wooden tables, one heart-shaped, one round, and one painted with forget-me-nots. Each piece had a story, Each one, when placed inside, felt like it belonged. Her mother helped sew gingham curtains and stack tea towels in a woven basket. Her best friend Nora brought in her grandmother's book collection, arranging the spines by colour across the long bookshelf near the back. A tiny card on the shelf read, "Borrow a book, bring it back, or trade it for one you love." By the front window, Eloise placed 2 old armchairs with a low wooden table between them. She imagined someone sitting there with a book, sipping a hot drink as rain tapped gently on the glass. The cafe didn't open with a grand event or big banners. It opened on a Thursday morning with birdsong and sunlight. Eloise brewed the first pot of tea and opened the door. For a moment she stood quietly, letting the moment wash over her. It smelled like fresh scones, roasted beans, and a hint of lavender from the vase on the counter. The first customer was Mrs. Halbrook from the bakery, who brought a warm loaf of sourdough as a gift. Then came Thomas, the postman, who smiled and said he'd always wondered what someone would do with the old shop. Some people came in just to peek. Others sat and stayed. Children tiptoed toward the bookshelves. A local artist left a tiny painting of a tree in spring, propped up near the sugar jar. Eloise moved softly through it all, wearing an apron her grandmother once wore, pouring coffee with steady hands, smiling shyly as the cafe began to hum. It was gentle. It was warm. It was home. The days that followed passed like chapters in a peaceful book. A soft rain on Tuesday brought in soaked travellers who sipped chamomile and watched the droplets streak the windows. Friday afternoons brought students with notebooks and headphones. Sundays were slower, with croissants and classical music playing softly in the background. One evening, just before closing, a young woman left behind a note scribbled on a napkin. "Thank you for the calm. I didn't know I needed it until I sat down." Eloise folded the napkin and tucked it into the recipe book with the golden leaf. As the seasons shifted, the cafe changed with them. In summer, Eloise set out wildflowers in little vases. In autumn, cinnamon sticks and soft orange lighting warmed the space. In winter, She offered thick blankets over chair backs and mugs of peppermint hot chocolate. On the shortest day of the year, she lit tiny lanterns across the shelves and invited customers to write wishes on paper stars. Some wrote dreams, some wrote names, some wrote nothing but left the star anyway. The bookshelf grew, so did the friendships. And Eloise, who had always been a quiet girl, found her voice in the stories and smiles of the people who gathered inside her little cafe. One year later, on the morning of the cafe's anniversary, Eloise opened the doors early. The air was crisp with the first hint of spring again. She placed a tiny sign outside. "You are welcome here. Come as you are." Inside, the kettle bubbled and soft music played. A child laughed near the window seat. A man turned a page. A couple shared a plate of lemon shortbread, just like her grandmother used to make. Eloise stood behind the counter, hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea. She looked out over the mismatched chairs, the cluttered shelves, the fading leaf pressed between glass above the counter, and she smiled. The Little Leaf Café had become exactly what she dreamed. A quiet place, a cozy heart, a home for anyone who needed a little peace. Thank you for joining us at Calm Sleepy Tales. If you enjoyed this gentle visit to the Little Leaf Café, we invite you to return for more quiet moments and cozy stories. Until next time, may your heart be full and your dreams be sweet.